Hey Jackets fans, welcome to Boom and Gloom. I am your host, Anthony, and I go by Whaler Jacket on social media platforms. I am Ohio's longest suffering hockey fan. Now, last week's episode was called Limping Towards the Finish, and this episode is not a whole lot different. The Jackets played the Islanders on Thursday night, and here's what happened. Besides the loss, of course. Boone Jenner did not play due to absolutely terrible, unthinkable circumstances. And my thoughts they go out to him and his family. Just horrible to think about. Johnny Gaudreau was sick, could not play. I believe that was Johnny's first game missed this season. I could be wrong on that, but I want to say that was his first game missed. Elvis was sick. There's a shocker, right? So Jet Greaves was called up to serve as the backup to Tarasov. But David Jiricek ended up accidentally kneeing Tarasov in the head. And so he had to be helped off the ice and didn't return. So I'm thinking probably a concussion. Now, I'm recording this on Saturday evening, and I have not checked today, so maybe his status has been updated, and that's already, old news. But if not, I'm thinking concussion. Jake Bean broke his hand, did not finish playing the game, and he is actually done for the season. And that was just last game, people. That was just Thursday. That's crazy. It's just unbelievable to think the injury bug / sickness bug / tragedy bug could hit this team so hard 2 seasons in a row. This team is certainly a bunch of walking wounded right now, or skating wounded, I guess you'd say. It's just insane. Coach Vincent even stated in an interview I watched that he wants the team to address the injury situation in the offseason. Now, I got to say, I'm not really sure I buy into the fact that all or even some of the CBJ injuries are a direct result of lack of conditioning or insufficient training. I don't think so. I'm more inclined to believe that the Jackets have just been really darn unlucky. And it also makes me wonder, though, how many of these injuries would players actually fight through or play through if they were in the playoffs? If the Jackets were a playoff team, I have a feeling that at least some of the players who are out right now would be back. But right now, understandably, there's no need to rush it. So they're taking their time to properly mend. I'm assuming as well that there are a lot of players right now on teams who are battling for a playoff spot who would be taking time off to heal nagging injuries had their presence on the roster not been needed for their playoff push. Now, I have no way to prove this. Just a thought. Just a theory. Now, tonight, the Jackets hosted the Philadelphia Flyers and skated away with a 6-2 victory. Interesting stat from that game, the Jackets tied an NHL record with 6 goals coming from defensemen during the game. Last time it happened was, I believe, 1992, the Washington Capitals, for whom Jeff Rimmer was broadcasting at that time. I like the Jackets play tonight. They dug deep, they played physical, they played a hard forechecking game, and look what happened. It yielded the desired result. Greaves looked great. Malatesta got his first NHL point with an assist. It was an all-around fun game to watch. And it was against Jackets' former coach, John Tortorella. Speaking of former coaches, recently, Bob McElligott had a conversation on The Inside Edge with former Jackets head coach Ken Hitchcock. I was never a huge fan of Hitch. Okay, I respected him as a good coach, but I remember often disagreeing with the style of play that he coached. But again, I respected him. Okay, like I couldn't argue that he doesn't have a great mind for the game of hockey. So I really took something that he mentioned to heart in the interview with Bobby Mack. He said something like this, like, this Blue Jackets team could experience a turnaround much faster than people think if things fall into place. One of the things he mentioned was that the Jackets have the skill on their roster. They have plenty of skill. But skill is not the only thing needed to win Stanley Cups or to simply be a winning team. He said that the team has to have players buy in to other roles, the intangibles, like the little things. So I believe he was alluding to like checking, grinding, two-way games. And he seemed to insinuate that the Jackets lack that particular aspect of the game. And I can see where he's coming from. I mean, who are our like really physical grinder players? Boone, he plays a physical game, as does Voronkov. But outside of those two, who do we really have that really gets into the corners and grinds out the puck? So let me list some players who do not embrace that element of their game. There's Johnny Gaudreau, Patrick Laine, Yegor Chinakhov, Kirill Marchenko, Kent Johnson. Now, those are some big names that I just mentioned right there. Big names meaning like they're all whom the Jackets count on or at least want to count on for their offense. But none of them really play that grinding physical style. I want to say they don't really play like a back-checking physical style either. Now, Adam Fantilli, he is going to be that guy, I believe. And Cole Sillinger is making some significant steps towards becoming that style of player. But neither of them are there yet, and there is no guarantee they will get there, especially without the right coaching and without the right mentors, like veteran players on the roster. I mean, the Jackets have such a young team. Then you have Alex Nylander and Alex Texier. I don't think either of them truly shy away from that style, but they don't really embrace it either. It's like they're that's not their game. Justin Danforth does, but he doesn't have like a true offensive side of his game that balances that out. Okay, and he doesn't really have the size. Now, obviously, we could say the same for Matthew Olivier. You know, I guess he has more of the size, but he doesn't have the offensive side either. On defense, if you look at the Jackets roster, you have mostly offensive-minded, finesse, puck-moving, that style of defenseman. Except Eric Gudbranson, okay? I could put him into that category. So it makes me wonder if Hitch really has something here. So maybe the skilled players need to continue to do the skilly stuff that they're doing, but maybe what needs to be unlocked is that other part of their game, the intangible stuff, maybe even the nasty stuff. what I wouldn't give to have a Matthew Tkachuk type player on this roster. Someone with the offensive prowess, but also a mean, nasty side. So perhaps Hitch is right. Maybe that is what the team needs. And if the current players are taught or learn themselves how to unlock those other parts of their games, then maybe he's right. Maybe we'll see a faster turnaround than we think. I really liked what he said when he said that the Jackets have enough skill right now. We have plenty of skill on the roster right now to win games, to have sustained success. But these players, they have to be able to unlock those intangibles. Now, I've been saying something similar about our defense since Provorov and Severson were brought in. Okay, I admittedly did not know much about either defenseman, like when they were signed. Just supposedly we were getting an upgrade. But now that I've watched them for a full season, it seems that they're all cast from basically the same mold. Werenski, Boqvist, Severson, Bean, Provorov, they all seem to play a similar style. Not exactly the same, but a similar style. So I would really like the Jackets to move on from Provorov and Bean this summer and bring in a different style of defender, like maybe a more of a stay-at-home, physical defender. Maybe even move out Boqvist if the return is right. But that, of course, is for the new general manager to decide. So that brings me to my next topic here. Speaking of the new GM, I've been thinking about this a lot. If I was someone who truly expected to be a candidate for the Blue Jackets GM position, I would want to know everything I can about the current roster. I would be watching every game. I would be assessing each player and the coaching staff. I'd also be watching the monsters and analyzing their roster. I'd be researching all the prospects, all the guys they have in the minors and the juniors. And I would be doing all this not only to have the best interview possible, but if I was confident that I was a serious candidate for the position and that I might get the job, I would want to start doing my homework early. So if hired, I could hit the ground running. So it just makes me kind of smile to think that there are probably a bunch of people right now, many people maybe, who are studying the Jackets, watching all their games and thinking about what their first move would be if they were named general manager. So there are probably already plans out there right now to fix the Jackets. Probably written out in documents, probably even like PowerPoint presentations being made. Or maybe they're just starting to be made, the early stages of their development, but they're getting ready for these interviews. And that's just very interesting to me. There are people out there right now with concrete plans to turn the Jackets into a winning organization. And man, to be a fly on the wall during those interviews. All right, what else? All right, if you have listened to my podcast before, you may have noticed that I reference other podcasts. And that's because I try to listen to as many Blue Jackets podcasts as I possibly can. I like to hear lots of opinions from, lots of other fans, media members. It helps me form my opinions. I will admit that I'm not a huge fan of Bob McElligott. Okay. I've learned he kind of glosses over a lot with the Jackets instead of just telling it like it is. I think I heard someone say once that he just toes the company line. And that may be accurate. But I listen to his Monday mailbag show every week mostly to just hear the opinions of the other fans who call into the show. And one topic that seems to keep coming up is what players will the Jackets try to bring in next year? And not necessarily specifically what players, but like what type of player, like what position would they be looking at? It was discussed about taking a shot at Lindholm to reunite with Johnny Gaudreau. That was discussed. But not just Lindholm, other centers as well. It seems to be talked about frequently that finding a big name center would be a huge benefit to the Jackets. Am I the only one here who thinks that it is not a top priority at this time? And by that I mean finding a center. In my mind, I think we're set at center for the future. In a few years, the top 3 centers will be Fantilli, Sillinger, and Voronkov. In my opinion, that's what it's going to be. If we hold on to these guys, we have Fantilli, Sillinger, Voronkov as our 1, 2, 3. Fantilli is, I'm confident to say, our number 1 center. Okay, if not next season, then definitely the one after. If you think about it, Pierre-Luc Dubois, sorry for saying his name, he ascended to the number 1 center position within the first 2 seasons with the Jackets. It may have been the first season, I don't remember, but definitely within his first 2 seasons, he was the number 1 center. And I think Fantilli is far better than Dubois, or has far more potential than Dubois. So in my opinion, we have our number 1 center. We have our number 2 center, Sillinger. I mean, he's made huge strides this year. And we have our number 3 center, Voronkov. Heck, we even have our number 4 center in Corrali. And then we have Boone Jenner, who is currently our acting number 1 center, who has shown he is more than capable of filling in at center in any of the top 3 lines. So if those top 3 that I mentioned earlier, Fantilli, Sillinger, Voronkov, if they don't stick right away, Jenner can fill in. And Kent Johnson supposedly was drafted to be a center, can potentially play center. Danforth has played center. I think Texier has even played center. So in my opinion, acquiring another center should not be a priority right now. Now, my feeling might change a little if our front office and coaching staff believed they needed a veteran center who can play in the top 3 for a year or 2 while our current ones developed, served as a mentor for some of these younger players. I could see that. But as I've said before, I don't have a whole lot of faith in the front office or the coaching staff and what they think is best for this team. So I think the Jackets should look elsewhere. I think they need to figure out some other stuff first. Okay, they need to figure out the goaltending position. Who's the starter going forward? Is it Tarasov? He really stepped up his game of late, prior to the injury. Are we definitely moving on from Elvis? Sure seems like it. And then, if and when we do, who's going to be our goaltending tandem next year? Is Greaves going to be up with the big club? Or are we going to bring in a veteran goaltender? That would be probably my choice. If I was involved in that process, I would probably say, let's hire a veteran netminder who can step in, back up Tarasov. But again, if the new GM decides that Tarasov is going to be our number 1 next year. There's just so many moving parts here. So let's just say the GM gets our goaltender situation set. I think we next need to get our defense sorted out. Trading Provorov should be a priority, in my opinion. Moving on from Bean, also a priority. Possibly Boqvist, as I said earlier, depending on the return. So then you have that sorted out. You need to figure out what to do with Line A and some of the other forwards. I mean, do you keep Line A? Do you trade him? And then what about depth players like Texier? Keep him? Trade him? What about Nylander? Do we like him enough? Do we like enough of what we have seen to give him another chance? I say yes. I mean, I say sign him to a light contract, low amount, low term. See what he does. A prove it contract. In another episode of this podcast, I expressed concern for the overall size of the Jackets players. We seem to have an abundance of smaller players, and by smaller I mean like not just height, okay? Smaller in height, but also overall size and stature. So Johnson, Gaudreau, Danforth, they're all smaller players. You have Brindley coming up within the next couple of seasons. You have Malatesta, who I believe is 5'9", in the next couple of seasons. Trey Fix-Wolansky, I mean, I don't think he's really in the Jackets' long-term plans, but if he is, he's like 5'8" or something like that. So I think the GM may want to bring in some size, which I believe would make Danforth a prime candidate for a trade. And again, just my opinion on this. I really like Danforth. He gives 110% every game. But if you're looking at the big picture and you're trying to diversify your roster, he might be a prime candidate for trade. Then, after all that is sorted out, then maybe you think about upgrading the center position. But personally, again, I don't see the need for it. I say you let the youngins develop. And of course, again, I mean Fantilli, Sillinger, Voronkov. Or you bring in a stopgap veteran who can lead those young kids and show them how it's done. So regardless, I just don't agree with the several people I've heard lately express their desire for the Jackets to go after a big name center. I don't think we need it right now. We need so many other things right now. Let's focus on those other things, and then hopefully Fantilli, Sillinger, they'll step up their game, and they will become the 1 and 2 centers that we were hoping for. Moving on, last thing I want to talk about today, Jeff Rimmer's replacement. First of all, congratulations to Jeff Rimmer on a fantastic career. I wish the Jackets could have been a more successful team for him to call games for. He seems like a great guy, and I wish him all the best in retirement. I sincerely mean that. But I will not shy away from the fact that I was not a big fan of Rimmer as this team's announcer. I just felt like he had reached his expiration date, and that happened a while ago. All the name errors that he made that many other fans found endearing, they were just plain annoying to me. I'll just call it like it is. They were just plain annoying to me. I mean, calling Boone Jenner Jennifer in a recent game, recently commenting how a Jacket should be going back to get the puck out of the goal to celebrate Putia's first ever NHL goal when it was actually Nylander who scored. His catchphrases like, he goes D to D. I mean, who cares that a defenseman passed it to another defenseman? It doesn't need a title. It doesn't need to be called D to D. I don't know. Like I said, many found this stuff endearing, and I did not. Okay, so like I said, he seems like a great guy. He had a great career. He was just probably past his prime. So I, for one, am happy that we're getting a new voice. I think there's a lot of A lot of big changes coming up this summer with the new GM, possible players changing and coaches changing. And now we also have our play-by-play guy changing. So I'm happy we're getting a new voice, but I wanted to express another unpopular opinion. I hope it is not Bob McElligott. Now, please don't roast me on this one. This is just my opinion. I'm just not a fan of the way he calls the games on the radio. All right? And I struggle with explaining why. The best way I can describe it is that he uses a delayed style. So I'll try to paint an example here. I have a feeling I'm going to totally fail at this, but I'm going to give it a shot. So let's say the opposing team moves the puck up the ice. Player A passes it to player B across the goal mouth, and player B scores. All right, it's a fast play, and most announcer would say something like, player A passes it across the goal mouth, score! Like, it'll be fast like that, okay? Player A passes it across the goal mouth, score! Player B tucks it past Tarasov. Something like that, okay? Nobody make fun of my announcer skills. So Bobby Mack might do something like this instead. Player A passes it right across the goal mouth, right in front of Tarasov, and player B was able to get his blade on it. He stuck it out, and the puck went into the net through the legs of Tarasov. So instead of like a quick he shoots, he scores, we get more of a delayed narrative of what happened. And in those few seconds, you hear the crowd gasp. So you know something has happened, and your mind just for a second thinks, oh, did someone score? Just for a split second. And then a second or two later, you find out that a goal was scored. It was verified. And I'm just not a fan of that style. I like it boom, 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 all right? This happened, score. Even when the Jackets score, he doesn't always just say, like, Marchenko shoots, he scores. He might try to be cutesy with it, like Marchenko with an absolute rocket of a shot. And the puck is already gone in the net at this point, all right? So he'd be like, Marchenko with an absolute rocket of a shot. Puck is in the net, and he buries it in the corner like an old dog bone in a junkyard. Now, I get it, guys. I don't do it justice, all right? I know I do not do it justice at all. But I don't need the postage stamp references or the good bingos. Okay, just give me the simple stuff. He shoots, he scores. Then give me the details. Tell me what happened. Hockey is a fast sport, and listening on the radio, you're trying to see the game through the eyes of the announcer. And personally, I just have trouble seeing it through the eyes of Bobby Mack. Now, maybe it would be a different story if he was the TV announcer instead of the radio announcer. Maybe his style would translate better to TV. I'm not sure, but I'm afraid that it won't. Okay, and I hope this does not come across as me ripping the guy to shreds. All right, not my intent. I'm just stating my opinion. And my preference would be for the Jackets to look elsewhere for their new play-by-play man for the TV. Okay. And just to let everyone know, I don't know if anybody else has heard this, but I specifically remember hearing Bobby Mack on either an Inside Edge or a Monday Mailbag. I think it was a Monday Mailbag, where he specifically stated that he wanted the job. So he wants the TV announcer gig. Okay. And with his standing in the organization, I mean, do the Jackets really like him? I don't know. But assuming they do, I would think that they would give him the position. And that, that doesn't exactly thrill me. So again, just my opinion. I'm sure he's a nice enough guy. I just don't I just don't like his style. And that's, again, just me. So that'll do it for this week's episode of Boom and Gloom. Now, I'm always looking for new guests for the show. I like to have other fans come on and share their opinions and perspectives about the Blue Jackets. I didn't get any requests to come on as a guest this week, but it is an open invitation. So if you're listening to this right now and you'd like to join me next week, please find me on Twitter at WhalerJacket. Send me a DM. I would love to have you on. Okay. You can also, if you don't want to come on the show and you just want to ask me some questions, I've never had anybody do that yet. You are welcome to send me questions and comments, and I would love to address them on a future episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We got a few games left in the season, so let's try to enjoy them. Go Jackets.